One way or the other, I'm always kind of surprised how we circle back to this character becoming meta, and not only does when she become meta, the game state is one of the most awkward to play because it's either be rolled or don't get rolled. But she also then becomes a necessary evil that she's one of the few DPS that can actually put up a fight against the state of support and tank in Overwatch. So it's just kind of like, well, how do we approach the DPS role? That's kind of what I find myself asking. This is going to be a little bit of a different rant video because at this point, I want to question and rant about DPS philosophy, DPS perspective, and DPS outlook in the game as to what are we trying to make them do, right? Because my biggest problem with DPS right now, and I guess Sojourn is one of the leading problems with this, is why are some of them in a state where they're relative to being able to perform or even outperform the state of super tank, which I hate super tank, and then the state of some really powerful supports right now. So to start off, before I kind of come back and talk about the DPS role as a whole, because I feel like we have to address it with this video, the first thing I want to talk about is Sojourn's perks, right? So Sojourn's perks, both of them are outright a damage increase no matter how you want to look at it. And they're both minor perks, which again is just this philosophy isn't shared across the rest of the DPS roster. For example, the first perk is called Extended Mag. It's her maximum ammo being increased by 15. And that's basically an increase to her sustained damage, right? The other one is even more absurd, which is in Overcharge, she's going to get 50 more, maximum energy in Overcharge while the overclock is active. Excuse me, I butchered that, but you guys know what I mean, right? Sorry, I'm fasting, so my head might be a little bit here and there. The reason this is absurd is it is a massive damage buff during her ultimate. So when she ults, so you can see on your screen right now, this allows her to do crazy amounts of damage, right? And I believe if you're nanoed, or even if you get the bare minimum damage boost from Mercy, you can one-shot body shot 250 HP targets, or I think even 275. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe you can, right? So an outright massive damage buff, um, depending on how you want to look at it. Either she gets a sustained damage breakpoint increase, or she gets a burst damage increase. Again, like two different parts of her kit. So again, the reason why this is a problem is yes, it breaks Sojourn further, and it makes her scale incredibly across the game. For a character that's already so strong, the fact that she's now even scaling harder than other DPS makes me question, why do we not just approach the other DPS from this perspective? And why are some DPS treated like quality of life changes and others are more transformative? There's no denying that Sojourn's changes are a lot more transformative than people want to give it credit for. Being able to just outright give yourself any buff you want for any situation, for any playstyle, is ridiculous. You can't have that on a character like Hanzo. None of Hanzo's buffs are quite literally buffs at all. Like those perks are just bare minimum quality of life changes. And let's be real, they don't even change his gameplay in any meaningful way, shape, or form. Then you have other characters who do get even more transformative gameplay, such as Torbjorn. Torbjorn used to be the jack of all trades, master of none, but with his perks now, he's kind of become the king of all trades, master of everything, to a certain extent. So when I look back at the perk system and I look at some of the meta characters right now, what I'm hoping for the mid-season, which I know is later tonight, this video is going to be coming up a little bit late. What I'm hoping for is we have to change the mentality when it comes to the rest of the DPS perks. It's either everybody has quality of life and just kind of slight consistency increases to their abilities, or we're outright giving them transformative gameplay experiences. It can't be one or the other. That's just stupid, right? Moving on over to her major perks, we have dual thrusters, so power slide gains an additional charge, and the jump height shifts to lateral movement. The adhesive siphon, this is the one that you're almost always taking, by the way. This is where the disruption shot can stick to enemies and generates railgun energy when dealing damage. This is ridiculous because not only does it set up her railgun energy, it also allows for a stronger pressure window for Sojourn to control the map once it latches onto a target and potentially is doing AoE damage across the enemy team. When I look at these perks, when I look at Sojourn's like, changes and how much they help her, right? I guess you could say my rant is less about, wow, okay, I think we need to nerf Sojourn, which I don't get me wrong, I still do think we need to nerf her. My real question is how come we didn't approach some of the other DPS with this perspective either? To be fair, this same concept and philosophy carries over to Pharah too, where pretty much a lot of Pharah's perks actually begin to remove some of her weaknesses, whether it's the movement during barrage, whether it's how you want to approach the fact that if you don't have a pocket healer in the game, you can give her shielding on her HP, so this way she can self-sustain. There's this gameplay experiences like that. Mei is another great example. I think number one, Mei is extremely underrated. I think Mei in ranked and solo queue and etc etc. Like Mei is actually really underrated. She's actually very strong right now. And Mei also has perks that completely transform her gameplay style and demand the enemy to play around her new gameplay, perspective, which is pretty much what I like. I like it when the perks are making that happen, and I don't like it when the perks are something like what Hanzo has gotten, or even like some perks like what they did with Sombra. Like I don't hate Sombra's perks, but like the downsides to a lot of like what her perks are make it even weird because at some moments, unless you're against a very specific comp for Sombra, not picking any perks for Sombra is actually sometimes the way to go even, which we kind of don't want that, right? So my hopes is that, well, number one, I hope we nerf Sojourn. And look, no matter which way we want to approach Sojourn, I think the healthiest way to take a railgun hero, I talked about this years ago when she was meta in season 1, 2, and 3 for Overwatch 2, and I said the easiest way to rework Sojourn is remove the railgun's ability to headshot, okay? And what you do is you play into the core fantasy that she charges up the rail and she body shots, and then make it so that there's no delay between the next shot, like the next shot that she takes from the railgun shot, remove that delay and allow her to charge up and shoot another shot. So with with the gun actually properly becoming a rail gun and not a budget sniper or a Widowmaker who can actually move around, what you now encourage is the proper active gameplay playstyle for Sojourn. You allow her to have strength in being that railgun hero who charges up a powerful shot and combos. I think it's just more fun if she can combo, right? And it's a lot less fun when the gameplay is just about, okay, land headshots, click heads, land headshots, click heads. Because then the character isn't really that overly appealing or different gameplay wise than some of the other hit scans in the game. So, what I want to see realistically is I know balance is not going to solve the Sojourn problem. In my opinion, what Sojourn needs is we need to shift her gameplay direction. We need to change her primary and secondary, the way they work. Remove the delay in between the primary and secondary fires when you do use them. Remove the headshot. Allow her to body shot. Okay, you can nerf the. You can slightly nerf the. What's it called? Um, the secondary fire. So basically, her projectile spread that you shoot to charge up energy, you can slightly nerf that and then further buff up rail. So even if you're going for body shots, those rail shots to the body actually matter, right? It's not going to make her overly oppressive because obviously you would adjust the numbers here and there so that it feels better. And an argument could be made that it makes Sojourn a little bit easier to play. But my question then becomes, where hasn't this game become easier to play? Where hasn't this game become easier to play? That's the harsh truth, right? That's the harsh reality about Overwatch right now. It's become 10 times easier than what it was even 3 years ago. In fact, I would even argue that 5v5, when it started, was actually a lot more skillful than where it is now, right? Especially if you look at the state of tank, right? Like, there was a world where playing Ryan actually took a little bit of skill and it mattered what you did on him. But now you have so much armor, you have so much shielding, you have so much HP that this character can actually just steamroll lobbies all the way up to masters on any of his favorite map. And there's sometimes it feels like there's nothing you can do against him because of the broken state of armor. I think I'm reaching a point now where I do want to talk about the state of armor. So that might be one of the follow-up videos, but we're first going to see what happens in the mid-season. So I know this wasn't one of those angry Abby kind of loses his mind, and plays the character of the raging gamer who wants something that he doesn't like nerfed. But I am kind of at a point now where I'm tired of seeing Overwatch make the same repeated loops. It's one of the reasons I've been playing Marvel Rivals a lot more than Overwatch is I feel like I entered the same loop with Overwatch where it's the same characters back in their same states with the same gameplay directions with nothing new happening. And while some nice systems and everything get brought along, it's never enough to change the gameplay state to where it isn't the same thing over and over again. And that's why I think what will really win me back for Overwatch is when we get the Overwatch Stadium. And because I think Overwatch Stadium is the future of Overwatch. I think Stadium takes the perk concept and it's basically Overwatch but like a little bit more MOBA-esque, right? And perhaps that's not necessarily a bad thing for the future of Overwatch. Because as somebody who's kind of done it all in the past 8 years for like the main streamlined game and modes, I just kind of feel like it's just the same thing over and over again. And they never experiment with trying to make new or unique things better. Now, don't get me wrong, they somehow found a way to break Symmetra and Torbjorn like crazy. While Sim probably isn't seeing that much pro play, she is pretty damn strong and ranked in the hands of a specialist, right? However, when it comes to like the generic characters who are actually in the meta, it's kind of been the same few characters here and there. What I also don't like about the gameplay direction is it's just so much more sustained and brawly based than it actually is, who can outplay the other team first. So you can draw out fights and just wait for somebody to make a mistake rather than actually look for a mistake and engage upon that mistake. I think that's what's truly holding Overwatch back. So even if we keep Sojourn in the direction that she is in, by the way, spoiler alert, I actually don't think Sojourn's gonna get nerfed, and that's scary. But what I would like to see is take the concept that you gave to Sojourn's perks, where it's outright buffs across the board, and just apply them to the rest of the DPS roster, onto those who need it. I think by far the character that needs help in this department the most is Soldier 76 and Hanzo. While Soldier can still play the game, his state right now is just abysmal. It's just pathetic where Soldier is right now. And then on the other hand, Hanzo is a character that you could legit remove from the roster, and I don't think anybody would even notice with how bad he is. That's just my thoughts on the matter for Sojourn, the game as a whole. I'll be reviewing the patch later tonight, so I'll see you guys in that video.